Oonan's Perturbations. Chapter 4. The Noble Art of Fainting and Other Survival Strategies. Written by Ryszard Haia. Dear reader, allow me, nay, compel me, to sing the praises of the road traveled by our righteous and mighty Oonan, hero of his times, and the noble Adelinda, a beautiful, soulful lady seeking not the fleeting thrills of this world, but rather nourishment of the spirit in the form of valiant songs and sacred hymns. That's the theory, anyway. In practice, every time Oonan tried to entertain her with a song, the princess went into bizarre convulsions, staggered around, and promptly collapsed, miraculously, always onto the softest patch of grass. Oonan's lyrics would die on his lips, and he'd throw those same lips at reviving the fainting lady, which, for the record, she didn't seem to mind much. Of course, when night fell, they'd each make their beds far apart, built from moss, ferns, and leafy branches. Oonan, upholding the sacred tradition between knights and high-born ladies, never mind that he was more of a knight-adjacent figure, would place his giant sword between them, just to be safe. And so the day ended, and the next began to fade, and soon it was time to rest again. The road led them deep into the forest, sometimes so overgrown that it felt less like a road and more like an animal trail leading to a watering hole. They longed for a good place to camp. A cozy little glade would do. After all, nobody wants to bump into trees in their sleep. Otherwise, we'd call it a forest, not a bedroom. But nightfall in the woods always brought a sense of dread, the kind their grandmothers used to whisper about at bedtime. Wolves, mostly. Oonan was supposedly afraid of nothing, and Adelinda was no coward either. But wolves? Now, that was a different story. Some ancient part of their brains, hardwired by generations of grandmothers, insisted on speeding up. So they hurried, and then, suddenly, came a desperate howl, like a ship's siren echoing through the forest, making them both jump and break into a run, pure, unadulterated panic. Moments later, they realized someone was actually shouting for help. "Fire! Merciful heavens, help me! Fire! Fire!" They froze, glancing around in terror. Where was this fire? There was nothing to see, just darkness, the sort of darkness only found in the deepest forests. No glow, no flames, nothing. Oonan led Adelinda cautiously in the direction of the cries. Soon they heard it again, closer this time and slightly less panicked, thanks to Oonan's keen hearing and uncanny sense of direction. Fire! Fire! Somebody help! They emerged into a tiny clearing ringed by shrubs and towering trees like a living palisade. Amidst the bushes, two glowing points looked for all the world like a fire, but turned out to be wolf eyes. "Actually, I'm a dog," said a shadowy animal figure caught in a cruel trap. One of his paws was clamped tight in the massive jaws of a poacher's snare. "Pretty sure I've broken my leg?" he groaned. "A talking wolf?" Oonan blurted out, unable to hide his amazement, even after all these years. The world just never stopped surprising him. "It's a long story. If you free me, I'll tell you over dinner. Quickly, it's getting dark. Nights are rough in these woods, and for the record, I'm not really a wolf. My grandpa was one, maybe, but that was ages ago." "We can't let you out. You'll eat us for dinner," Adelinda said, ever practical. "How would I even do that? Look at him, and then look at the size of my snout. Even if I were a snake, I'd have to digest him for years. You, I could maybe eat in installments." He licked his chops meaningfully. "But you're not quite my type. Why did you shout fire if nothing's burning?" "Pure instinct. As soon as I smelled you, I knew it was my only shot. Nobody ever comes here. Another week, and the wolves would have eaten me." Oonan, not entirely convinced, broke the iron trap open with his sword and set the dog free. He was a magnificent beast, big and muscular, impressive for a wolf, absolutely stunning for a dog. His fur, a dusky gray, shone in the moonlight that had just risen. "That's much better. Turns out my leg's fine. Thank you both from the bottom of my doggy heart. Freedom. It just hits different. So, what do we call you? Wolf? Dog? Or Theodore? Or Teo for short. I like it, but no one ever uses it. Nobody talks to me, really. I've been living out here in the woods, and let me tell you, visitors are rare. You talk a lot. You could try talking less, grumbled Oonan, who wasn't a fan of idle chatter, especially with the dog ruining his plans for a peaceful walk and some private time reviving the princess. The princess, however, disagreed. Oh no, it's wonderful. Talk as much as you want. I've never met a talking animal before. 2 hours later, she changed her mind.